And it looks like the call recorder is working.
Yay.
Now you just have to figure out where it sends everything to. The person that I recommend, Neil, if you want to talk to someone who uses Discord a lot, talk to Alex, because that's what we used to record Twig with for the better part of like 2 years. And he makes it sing. We also use it for Altered Geek for like for Steve whenever we do Future Imperfect and shit like that.
I was in a Discord server where we used it once before, so I remembered it.
Yeah, like your like audio quality will be dramatically better depending on what server you've got it set to. Typically, US East is the most congested because COVID. US Central doesn't seem to be too bad, depending. Sometimes you will get some lag. Now, because the way Discord works, it is recording us. I can't remember what the term was, but sometimes it doesn't happen often, but be aware of it. Our voices may go robotic. That should not show up in the final recording, but everybody who's listening to the call may hear it in real time, but don't worry about it. And if you can edit around it, like basically if you're talking and I don't hear your response, I don't know. We're just going to have to play a lot of things by ear, but I don't mean to freak you out, but that's something to be aware of. There is a service though, and I really recommend you look into it, and it's free right now because it's in beta. It's called Zencaster. It sends everybody, or you send out links on Google Chrome because it won't work with like Firefox. And you just connect to a room, and each channel or each person becomes a channel. And then you can mix all those together and master them however you want. And it sounds fantastic. We've been using it for Twig for the better part of a year now, and it's the best thing we've ever done. Yeah, like it's seriously worth it. And Lord help you if you ever use Skype. I may find a way to crawl my crippled ass over to you and hurt you.
Well, don't sugarcoat it, Mike. Tell Neil how you really feel.
Me and Alex had this huge fight with like Blanchard like a year ago over Discord.
Wow, you had a fight with Blanchard. What a shock.
He was like, Skype is so much better. I'm like, dude, I will stab you in the eye with a pencil.
I've known that Skype is awful for a long time. I'm just kind of slow to change, but he takes some weird stances.
Oh my God, like this is the hill you want to die on, Skype?
You remember when the hill he wanted to die on was how he refused, and again, personal taste and opinion, I don't think he's wrong for saying this, but how he wouldn't admit that maybe X-Men Evolution was the superior X-Men cartoon.
God, he just wouldn't let that go.
I offered him years ago because he kept making the same terrible Harry Potter joke for the better part of like 5 years. I'm like, dude, I will buy you the movies, and for each movie you watch and give me an honest review, I will pay you $10. So I was willing to pony up $100 or less or whatever. He wouldn't do it.
But also, like, you have the mad, insane idea that I'm going to be able to get Quentin down to $10 for that John Lynch figure.
Sooner or later, he'll break.
It's not going to fucking happen.
You just walk in every day, like, hey, so-and-so, $10.
No? Okay, see you tomorrow.
Yep, see you tomorrow. And just see what he does. Over the course of like a month, I guarantee he'll be like, fine, $10 if you shut the fuck up.
Yeah. So in case you're wondering what we're both babbling about, Neil, in doing the Sunday Funnies on Twig with Mike, we've both come around to fully embracing our love of comics from the 1990s. One of which is Mike's unabashed love of Gen 13. Nor should you be ashamed of that, Michael.
Oh, Caitlin Fairchild.
Fucking love it.
There is a almost mint in box 12-inch Gen 13 John Lynch figure at the comic book store that I frequent here in Saskatoon. And I'm going to buy it, and it's going to become our unofficial mascot of the show. All, John Delancey voice, scowling, one-eyed goodness that is John Lynch.
Oh, that reminds me, JT. Okay, so I have an indecent proposal for you. So,
go on.
You say you do not have any next generation consoles, correct?
Yeah, I have an G1 360.
Okay. I have a PlayStation 4 for sale. However, it is a quirk. Its disk drive does not work. However, I have installed a 2 terabyte drive into it.
Okay.
So if you want to use it as the only, probably one of very few in the entire world, PlayStation 4 digital, would you want to buy it? I will give it to you at the friendo price. I'll even cover shipping.
I would definitely be interested in that, Mike. Right now I'm flat fucking broke.
Well, it is not going anywhere. Yes, let me know.
Yeah, I will.
So I'll get it prepped in the meantime. I'm going to wipe it. You get 2 controllers with it. Although I may keep one just for sentimental reasons.
Yeah. Actually, you know what I found straightening up my room the other day given the metric shit ton that I've crammed in here, I'm not surprising I lose things. I found Tommy.
Oh, you're the one that's the automorpher or whatever?
Oh, just the original, like, whatever.
12-incher?
It's a 7-inch, 8-inch, whatever that we traded for way back in the day.
Oh, wow.
It was like probably within 20 minutes of me commenting on that post you put on Facebook is like, how did we become friends? And then, all right, that's some bitch.
Yeah, in Power Rangers collecting, I finally got the last Lightning Collection figure that I was missing. Yeah. I've been waiting for 6 months for a Big Bad Toy Store order to come through. Still hasn't come through for some reason, yet people are finding this wave in stores. Came across my Yellow Ranger figure on Facebook Marketplace for $40. Thinking, well, it's $5 above retail, and I don't care. I'm done waiting for Big Bad Toy Store. Suck my dick.
Actually, I made my first toy purchase in a while last week. I got Masters of the Universe Origins He-Man and Battle Cat.
I'll show you guys something cool. I'm going to post it in the chat here. Just give me a sec. Because I can use my phone and Discord at the same time because I'm cool like that.
Figured it out. Okay. Going to Google Drive.
Yay!
Yeah. If I just clicked enough things, I'd find it.
You know, so I think it's by virtue of you being you, Neil. Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. I know a friend of mine just got, like, I'm not going to reveal his name because he said, you can tell people I got this, but he's afraid people are going to, like, overload his inbox with requests to buy it off him. He's got a mint in-box Ectotron signed by Dan Aykroyd.
That's pretty cool.
And did he originally buy it for the $25 it was supposed to cost, or was it priced?
I think he met, like, and it was last year he picked it up, and I forget which con he said he was at that Mr. Aykroyd was there, but he put it out there, and I think whatever he charges for autographs, he's like, you know, that it wiped out his budget for like the rest of the con, but it was worth it because Dan fucking Aykroyd.
The latest thing I got signed at a con was Power Rangers movie DVD by Steve Cardenas.
Oh, wow. Cool. You met Rocky.
You did.
Yeah, right before he became sort of relevant again, because he still hadn't shown up in the anniversary, Dimensions in Danger.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did. I was like, oh, now
you're not dead.
You're not dead. He came to Uruguay, and this year we were supposed to get, either this or the next year, we were supposed to get Jason David Frank.
That guy would show up for a 7-Eleven opening if you paid him.
Well, the other who's extra willing to go to cons that was here first was the actor from the Red Time Force Ranger.
Oh, Wes Johnson, I think his name is.
Yeah, probably. He was here like 5 or more years ago. 5 years ago, I think. Maybe 6. Nice fella.
I met the blue SPD Ranger at a convention last year. He's a really nice guy.
Oh, nice.
And the red Dino Charge Ranger, he's a weird guy, but he's got a great sense of humor.
Oh, yeah, it's Jason Font was Wes in Time Force.
That's it, Jason Font.
That's it. Yeah.
He honestly, because I remember a couple of years ago when they had, I think Mike, you and Alex did some talking about like the anniversary episodes they did during Dino Charge, and he was honestly like the best thing about that. I mean, okay, yeah, Tommy showed up, and I'm always going to be a Jason David Frank fan, but when Wes showed up in the next in that crossover, I was like, you make everything better by being in it. Like, he's kind of the Raul Julia of Power Rangers.
Well, that's one of the things, because his character makes sense. That's the thing. Like, he can put together a special if he wants to.
Yeah.
It's like whenever the Tommy character has to make the special happen, it's more like, oh, his weird mystic behind the scenes shenanigans are bringing us together. But Wes is like, no, he picked up the phone and made some calls. Now they're here. And it's like, yeah, that could happen.
And I've lost entire hours of my life with a couple of friends on Facebook in some groups, like arguing the meta temporal physics of how the time travel / dimensional travel works in the Power Rangers universe. And at one point, it's like, I said, like, dude, I just gotta stop and go stare at myself in a mirror and wonder where my life went wrong.
Is the Time Force novel out already? Because the graphic novel.
I
Not
think
yet.
next month, is it?
Yeah, I want to check that out. The art is not my favorite, though. A combination of the pencils and the colors are not doing it for me. When it comes to the Black Ranger, mostly, there's a new Black Time Force Ranger in there, and the coloring with the inks just doesn't work. At least on the art I saw. Maybe they fixed it in post-production. Like, last running, what the hell happened with the last running that they had to change artists? They say it was a scheduling conflict or something, but they redid the pages that they had already put out.
Yeah. Was it Sins of the Future? It's supposed to be out already, fit like print copies and digital, but I haven't seen it turn up yet.
This is for the Power Rangers thing, right?
Yeah, the Power Rangers, it's the
Time Force
one. Yeah,
that's the only one I'm skipping because I have no connection to Time Force, like, whatsoever. I hear it's a pretty badass season, but I haven't gotten around to it. Anyway, we should start just because Neil's like, we should start.
Oh, sorry, Neil.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt the conversation, but I just thought I'd throw in that. Yeah,
Neil staring at the internet, tapping his watch.
We were bonding, Neil. Jod.
I know. But anyway, hey everybody, welcome out to another Gaming Hipster podcast at ravinghipster.com and also geekcastradio.com. And today I have a full house. I've got Mike the Birdman. How you doing?
I am doing fine. It is a great time to be here talking about one of my all-time favorite things, video games and movies. I'm excited to talk about this wonderful experience.
Two great things that almost sometimes go great together. And with us as well is JT from Saskatoon.
Good evening. Death to Yui Ball.
And before we get too much farther, I should plug thisweekingeek.net. Because I almost forgot to do that. Sorry. And finally, we have Pablo Praino, my buddy, who we did some comics together a while ago.
Yes, we did, and I hope we will keep making more eventually.
Yeah.
When's that swimsuit special coming out, by the way?
It's coming out soon. It's part of the holiday special. I just kind of put it off. But anyway, so yeah, we're here to talk about our favorite, maybe least favorite video game based movies. And this is either going to be a great episode or a train wreck. I don't know which, but because I didn't plan this out very well, but I'll just kind of start and say the Street Fighter movie. which is
Which Street Fighter movie? Because there are
Yeah,
several.
that's the thing. I actually came with one in particular.
the only one, the
I came
Raul
with
Julia
two.
one, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
a movie that I initially thought was terrible, and then I realized years later, wait, this is the greatest comedy ever.
I sort of had like a whole 360 turn on it because I saw it as quite young, and I recall going like, "Oh, I'm going to see this game I love, but it's a movie." And then I saw the movie and I was like, "Oh, that's from the game. That's from the game. That's from the game." I don't know why they did the rest wrong, but at least that was from the game. And so it was like, oh, that scene was cool. That scene was cool. And Bison, of course, was excellent. Raul Julia as Bison.
God rest his soul.
But then it was like I went to this growing up phase when everything sucks and that movie sucks balls. Like, why can't they get it right? And then I sort of ended up again on like, wait, this is actually good. Why was I bitching about it? This is fun. It's a fun movie. I can't say that about a lot of other movies.
Oh yeah, there is so much more right with that movie than it has any right to be. And this is the weird thing, you guys. How I first came into contact with this movie was a radio ad. I was listening to GX94, which is this AM country radio station broadcast in my area where I grew up out in the farm country, and the Christmas 1994, around the time the movie first came out, for some reason, every time they went to commercial break, they would play the audio from the trailer over the radio.
Oh, they did something like that here as well.
Yeah.
But the first time I saw this was on a magazine called Top Kids that was based on a TV show about gaming and kids pop culture. And they actually were like Mortal Kombat based. And every time they took out the magazine, it would come with an action figure for a Mortal Kombat character that was actually made out of Rambo: The Force of Freedom repurposed toy parts because they had like a local version here in Argentina. And the thing was that meant you can actually have Mortal Kombat toys that are in exact scale with Rambo toys. So we did the DLC Mortal Kombat 11 expansion pack battles before they came here.
Oh, wow.
That's wild, man.
And that's the magazine where the ad came out, and they actually did a special on the Street Fighter movie, and they did a Guile action figure that looked like ass because it wasn't made from the Mortal Kombat or Rambo figure parts. It was done like a sculpt, but it was like an amateur sculpt. And as a material, they use like, that foam for repairs they do on the houses. I don't know what's called, styrofoam maybe? Well, so yeah, that's how I found out. But tell us more about what happened after you got to see it.
I remember when I first saw this movie, it was about it would be the spring summer of 95. So like the following year, we go to visit my grandma in Saskatoon. My mom and my grandma go to like visit an aunt and uncle in town. My dad's looking after me and my two younger brothers. And he rented two movies from the corner store. One was Street Fighter, but the one we watched first was Highlander 3.
Oh.
It was the first movie that I ever saw that had boobs in it that my dad didn't tell me to avert my gaze. Plus, it was Highlander, and we both loved that show. But no, we got into this movie, and this was like the dawning of, I like this, I hate that, I love this. Andrew Bernarski is a fucking god. He is literally the best cast outside of Raul Julia. Zangief is the best cast character in this movie because he's perfect. We get paid.
Just great. He makes work a very stupid gag on the movie with the whole, the tub up that's only halfway there. He sells that thing.
Yeah,
it's a very stupid gag.
And this is one of those things, like, I have been playing the game for a while at this point, like Street Fighter 2 and Super Street Fighter 2 and Turbo and all that. And it's like, why is DJ a bad guy? Why isn't T-Hawk built like a brick shithouse? Balrog's a bad guy. You know,
That's an interesting thing is that when they did the animation series that came afterwards, they swapped places with DJ and Balrog.
yeah.
They literally fill their exact roles in the series.
But they still try to tie it into the events of the movie, which was weird. But I want to ask you, Mr. Birdman, who's your favorite character in this movie? And you can't say Bison because everybody loves Bison.
I'm a huge Jean-Claude Van Damme fan. Like I've been following the first movie I think I saw with Van Damme was probably Universal Soldier back in '92, I think it was. And I love movies like Time Cop and Bloodsport and Cyborg and all that shit. Now, did anybody here see this movie in theaters?
I did in a very, very small theater. It was like a 30 people capacity theater with my best friend from my childhood, and we were like 5 people at that cinema. It was a very small screen as well. And the odd thing, well, we saw it in Spanish, and that's most of the movies we got here and we got to watch as kids here were dubbed. So I never knew about Jean-Claude Van Damme's accent. So I know people watching it in English, of course, noticed it. So for us, like, oh yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme Pascal, yeah, he's American as fuck. You know, when he flexes his muscle and the American flag is on his tattoo arm, that's like, yeah, oh America, you know. We didn't get to see the irony in it.
Little did you know it was this Belgian man.
Yeah.
When I saw this movie the day it came out, because this was the Christmas of '94, I think. But I know this movie came out at Christmas time. So I came from a hometown of about 20,000 people. We had a 3-screen cinema. It was Owen Sound Cinemas 3 at that time. We hadn't become Owen Sound Cinemas 5 yet. And I thought this was going to be big. I thought it was going to be awesome. So I begged my dad to drive me into town because I lived about 15 minutes away in a small village. So I drove there. He dropped me off, and I was expecting a full house. And say, who doesn't love fucking Street Fighter? This is going to be awesome. I was one of 3 people. And I remember this because I was probably, how old would I have been? I was under 15 either way. And I remember throwing up the what the fuck hands multiple times in the theater out loud. And I didn't realize this would become a reoccurring theme in my life where I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? And I got so angry and animated during this. And it's just me and 3 people. So I can just imagine them staring at this fat kid getting very angry at this particular movie. I didn't come around until much, much later, realizing how much I love this movie. And it's because of one particular speech. Obviously, it's the big Guile speech when he's like, I'm going to get on my boat. But there's the way he says this phrase. I love it. He's like, that son of a bitch bison. It's just the way he draws that out.
Oh,
like, yes.
That's not even the best part of the speech. No, who wants to go home? And who wants to go with me? And everyone loses their shit. I even fist pumped in my grandma's living room. My dad, literally, I remember my dad looking at me like, it's a fucking movie, son.
His ability to be obviously non-American is way better than even Schwarzenegger. He's like, I'm going to go up the river and kick that son of a bitch Bison's ass so hard. You know, it's like no American would say it like that.
But you got to remember, and I mean, we got to get onto another movie eventually, but
yeah,
you got to remember, this is a point in his life where Van Damme had like a 10 grand a week coke habit.
Yeah, it was bad.
Performance.
And he was dating Kylie Minogue as well.
Well, he was married at the time too. He was on his like 4th marriage, but it's Kylie Minogue. Like, of course you're going to take a shot at that.
Well, have you seen her doing have you seen Kylie Minogue doing the work for the game? Oh my god, they got her oiled up and oh my god.
Okay, Neil, calm down.
So
yeah, I gotta respect the what's the dedication they had to Kami's legs in the video game, because we didn't get that in the movie, which of course made sense in the movie, but still.
I knew they weren't going to do that.
By the way, check the text channel for pictures of the Top Kids magazine and toys.
Yeah, I remember. I never saw stuff like that, but I remember when they had the 3 3/4 Street Fighter line that was like apparently G.I. Joe, or Street Fighter was like a subdivision within G.I. Joe that fought against the forces of Shadaloo, which was subservient to Cobra.
Well, that sort of came at exact same time in the Top Kids magazine ads. So I was entirely convinced that this whole Street Fighter gone military thing was a whole organized push, as in movie, TV series, and toys, and they were all doing the same thing. I never found out about the Mortal Kombat G.I. Joe figures, which apparently exist as well. But I certainly prefer the Street Fighter toys over that. By the way, they also reused the molds for the Street Fighter action figures G.I. Joe in Argentina as an alternate nondescript military line, which I, of course, will find pictures for that. But keep going with your thing.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I came with, on my list, I had 2 Street Fighters, and the other is Street Fighter 2, the animated movie.
I remember renting that from Blockbuster. Again, small town Ontario, not exactly a huge fucking anime section. And I'd seen very little anime at that point. I'd seen Akira and Lensman and Vampire Hunter D. So they randomly had Street Fighter the movie, but it was the uncensored version. So the one with the shower scene with Chun-Li. God, I hope we don't sound creepy. And that's the first time I remember seeing real animated boobs. Because it was something so alien to me. I didn't realize you could do this and, not get in trouble for it. But I remember liking it a hell of a lot more than I should have, just because it was so cool to see characters that I'd played in the video game for so long be, in my opinion, fairly well represented. Like, I'm disappointed that one of my mains, I always play Cammy and Ryu. I'm really surprised Cammy didn't get more screen time other than just running up and snapping a guy's neck. But it was cool how she did it.
Gets killed off of screen. They go Cammy should get killed. Yeah, yo, Sagat, go kill Cammy. And that's the last thing we ever hear of her.
Yeah.
And she's in every fucking poster for that movie.
Well, yeah, because she's Cammy.
Yeah, of course. Lex sell. But then again, the weird thing here is the VHS I rented for the movie was somehow colored tinted blue or green. It was like off colored. I don't know why. And not until I saw it on TV that I got to see it in real colors. Up to then, I was convinced that the movie was blue for some weird reason. Because I got it on every different video club I could get it, any rental, and every copy here in Uruguay was tinted blue. I don't know why.
I was the video copy I saw it on had like this weird green tinge to it, and this is the one that I think this is like the first full-on anime film I ever saw. It made me fall in love so much with Street Fighter, because like as much as I love Mortal Kombat, I kind of love Street Fighter more because it's a little more quote unquote light compared to the death and carnage that is in MK. But no, it's just something about these characters. This game is this giant jacked up super Nazi with a Muay Thai kickboxer with one eye, this punch-drunk boxer, and this Spaniard with like a dragon tattoo and this one set of Wolverine claws are trying to take over the world because reasons.
It really defies itself to be put into a story. You really can't do it. I think that's going to be a theme with all these movies. It's just, well, Street Fighter's just way too busy. Each character has their own plot, and so when you try to like mash them all together into one movie, it doesn't really work. You always have to default to either Ryu or Ryu or Guile or like one of those two, and then everyone else just kind of gets fucked off to the side.
There was a thing I watched on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, and I think during it, they say the script for this movie, I think the guy who directed this was Steven D'Souza, and he wrote this movie in like a weekend, and that was the only way he was able to direct this movie, is like, if you can do it in such and such a time, you can do it. And evidently the Capcom executives were like, yeah, sure, that sounds cool. They were
I think
wrong.
you're talking about the live action movie again, Mike.
Oh no, I'm sorry. You're right. I blanked. No, to talk about the animated movie again for a second. I am surprised how enduring this movie is, for the simple fact that it is available on so many streaming services. This movie is not hard to find. I think it's even available for free across one or two ones right now. I think it's on Tubi, I want to say, or it's on Retro Crush. It's on one of them.
I got it on a PlayStation 2 disc. I have the Street Fighter collection. You can play like all the Street Fighter 2 games, and then like in the options you can watch the movie for some reason.
Yeah. And at the time, I thought this was tied into, because there's the Street Fighter 2V anime series that came out, I think, just before or just after this film was released. If you look back at the timeline, I thought this was part of it. And this is one of those things, like, it clearly isn't.
Oh,
but
you want to have that weirder, even though, because here they aired the Street Fighter cartoon series and then the anime series from Street Fighter 2B, like in a row in the same time slot. So I was confused.
That's whiplash.
Yeah. But also, again, this is another example, because people always say like, oh yeah, the Americans fuck up every Japanese property. The Japanese should do it well and better. And here we have two clear examples of two Japanese productions that take very different approaches to their source material. I love the movie, and it's also very high production value in many aspects. But the Street Fighter 2B series, it was until the very last episodes near unrecognizable.
Yeah, like Ryu never has his headband, and a lot of the motivations of the different characters just don't seem to jibe with what's been established in the, again, finger quotes, continuity of the games. The anime, like Street Fighter 2, the movie, also, it was one of the first movies that has like this the end question mark sort of ending, where Ryu's gone walkabout like Kane in Kung Fu, and all of a sudden Bison is back and he's going to try and run him over with this semi, and Ryu leaps at it like he's about to throw a Shoryuken at it.
I forgot about that.
And I was just like, I don't care how it really ends, because we all know Ryu's going to punch the hell out of that truck, which may or may not have been a reference to that destroy this car in the Street Fighter 2 game, which I never understood what the point of that was.
Well, somebody parked
there illegally, obviously.
Well, okay, we'll show you to disrespect traffic laws.
For me, I saw that movie after Project Echo. I love the fight scene in Project Echo. So you go from that to Street Fighter, and it's like, it's okay. The Cammy scene's awesome, but unfortunately, it's like right at the beginning of the movie.
And I mean, it's not the last Street Fighter. I mean, you have the Street Fighter Legacy fan film from a few years ago, which starred I think his name is John Liu. He played the Jackie Chan role in that awful Rush Hour TV series. And
my God, I forgot that existed.
Yeah, I'm sorry for giving you guys nightmares. I must apologize. And he played Ryu in that, and that led to the Street Fighter Assassin's Fist web series, which I absolutely love. Like it is, for like pretty well being a fan production of a sort, because the two guys that play Ryu and Ken, like, they're just huge Street Fighter fanatics, I've read, and they just put their heart and soul into it, and that led into the sequel, which I forget what I think it's called Resurrection, and it involves Charlie, not the discount store fright wig Blanca Charlie from the Van Damme movie, but the proper Charlie from the video game series, who comes back, and he's like this Frankenstein cyborg who's like trying to copy fighters' prowess or kidnap them for some organization. I don't know. Has anyone seen
Shadow.
those two? It was
I haven't seen the movie yet, but
yeah.
I
It
do
wasn't
know
sh-
about the projects. They're actually on Amazon Prime Video,
Oh yeah. So I saw them
so
in
that got a nice high profile then.
yeah, no, I saw them in parts on YouTube. And I keep like what are some movies on your guys' list? Because I keep reading off of mine and
One of the ones I'd like to talk about, and it's a fairly kind of recent one, and I think it's a bit of a softball one, but we don't have to spend a whole lot of time for it, is Detective Pikachu. And the big debate, at least in my opinion, of the last couple of years, what's the best video game movie? And I think it comes down between Sonic the Hedgehog and Detective Pikachu. I think Detective Pikachu proved that if you put money and the right people who give a shit about a project behind it, it can be successful. I was like, I don't know, like I'm even still having this internal debate as we have this conversation, which movie do I like better, Sonic or Pikachu? Pikachu, I've got more of a connection to because I still remember lining up to go see Pokemon, the first movie, when it came out in like 1999. I was in high school at that time. My girlfriend looked at me really fucking strangely. But I remember having a fantastic time with it. Detective Pikachu, I didn't think it would work. Mind you, seeing the trailers that were cut together for it, because they were all CG, but I remember when I saw Psyduck and having him kind of dance and was a little, I'm like, okay, that's pretty funny. But the thing that sold me on that was the trailer that had it cut to Bonnie Tyler's Holding Out for a Hero. And I'm so disappointed that the marketing team or the editors didn't think to use that song actually in the movie, because the way that trailer's cut is beautiful and pitch perfect. You could not have cut together a better trailer that sold what that movie was about. Then the only other trailer that I think that was just as good, but it was unfortunately very misleading, was the Suicide Squad trailer. Really fantastic trailer, great music choice, and it sold the movie. That movie sucked. Detective Pikachu did amazing.
The trailer actually fucked up the movie in Suicide Squad because it was such a good trailer, but also so not really aligned with the content of the film that they had the guys who edited the trailer re-edit the movie, and the director had to re-edit his cut as well, and they sort of found like a middle ground. So the movie is Charlie there. It's this Frankenstein that tries to copy another style that isn't his, and doesn't exactly work. But yeah, when it comes to Detective Pikachu versus Sonic the Hedgehog, they're very different movies, but also very similar because they're both buddy cop movies somehow. And also like road movies at some point. And it's also this guy with CGI sidekick, with Banter coming and going. I think my thing with this is that I never played Detective Pikachu, so this whole talking to Pikachu thing felt a bit off to me. I love the movie. I love the way it's executed. But it's like, that's not my Pikachu. But it was a very wise move. It was a smart choice. I'm amazed we're not seeing more Pokemon movies at this moment.
Yeah, like I'm surprised it took this long, but I think the technology had to come to a certain point. I mean, one of the great things I liked about Detective Pikachu is it's not just here's the greatest hits of Gen 1. They throw in enough new Pokemon from the later things, like, oh, hey, that's an Apom. Here is not a Growlithe, whatever the hell the detective's pug-like Pokemon is. Stuff.
Snubble?
Yeah.
Growlithe?
No, it's not a Gen 1. It's like I think it's like from Crystal or something. I don't know. I tapped out after Pokemon Yellow. But yeah, I mean, it did everything that it needed to. It played the hits. We got Mew 2 as the main bad guy, and people wanted that. It worked fairly well. Sonic the Hedgehog works on a different level because you don't need hardcore knowledge of the franchise. I think Detective Pikachu appealed to hardcore fans and fans of the franchise, whereas Sonic is more general appeal. Plus, you have the advantage of Jim Carrey as a wonderful Robotnik, and you also have Cyclops, who is surprisingly entertaining in it. It worked. Like, I was surprised how well Sonic worked, and just gotta send this shout out. That soundtrack for Sonic the Hedgehog has, I can't remember the name of the artist, but if you go on Spotify and look at the soundtrack, and I think it's called Run.
Yeah, Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah, that song is goddamn catchy. Like, I am really surprised it wasn't used in the advertisement.
If we want to talk about misleading advertisement, or at least misguided art direction, Sonic the Hedgehog is a perfect example. Gangster's Paradise? Anyone?
Oh,
yeah, that was a weird choice.
Yeah, I realize they're trying to go back to the 90s, but you're trying to go back to the 90s too hard. And you're right about Carrey, Mike. That is like 1994 Jim Carrey. That's The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura Jim Carrey. And Ben Schwartz, who voices Dewey on the new DuckTales, Blue. I think it's his voice, like his voice work as Sonic, really lends itself to like you care about his plight and everything. Like the scene where James Marsden throws him out of the truck and he runs into the Pacific and then runs back, and he's got like the seaweed and the fish in his hair and he's just glaring at him. But that wouldn't work so well as if Ben Schwartz wasn't like putting his all into the voice work.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing too. Sonic has a wonderful cast around it too. And people were mad that we didn't get, why isn't Jaleel White voicing Sonic, which would have been a nice throwback, but he's Jaleel White. I'm sorry, you're not A-list anymore. You look at, who was the other guy who voiced Sonic in the cartoons? Not Jaleel White, the other guy.
Oh, from Adventures of Sonic?
Yeah, like, I'm kind of glad they went in this different direction. Again, going for broad appeal. Like I said, this movie, it worked on so many levels. The writing was smart. The movie was never boring. And I don't know, Sonic honestly surprised me. And then throwing in the thing at the end where they talk about the echidnas, and you see Tails pop up. And as far as I know, that is Tails' proper voice actor. So that's fantastic. That's fan service done right. Whereas Detective Pikachu, they cast Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu, which is okay. That's a little strange, but because people always associate him with like kind of Deadpool, you can't help but think Deadpool is voicing Pikachu. And that's nothing against Reynolds. He's a fantastic actor. He's a great Pikachu. He really is. It's just, I hear Deadpool coming out of Pikachu. Whereas when I hear Ben Schwartz as Sonic, that's Sonic to me. I'm not thinking that's not Jaleel White.
Well, and I just looked it up here. Adventures of Sonic was Jaleel White as Sonic again.
There was another guy though, like Ryan something. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
I don't remember this.
Yeah. No, and I love I know a lot of people don't like the Marvel style mid-credit scenes like that, like the sequel bait. User results may vary, but I love the Robotnik one where he shaved his head, he's got the trademark like broom mustache. Reconnaissance. Every time I think of that, and it's Jim Carrey.
I'm just a tiny bit sad that I had to throw that into the trailers to appease the fans a bit. It would have been a nice surprise.
And also, do you think they were taking a shot at Super Mario with him being in the Mushroom World?
Yeah, partly, but also there's the Mushroom Hill Zone, so it's
Sonic and Knuckles.
Yeah.
By the way, I did just look this up. The voice of Sonic for most of his kind of video game stuff is a guy called Roger Craig Smith.
Ah.
Yeah, like that's another fantastic actor, but again, you're going to piss off somebody with these movies. But Ben Schwartz worked, and I think he enjoyed the role so much that it didn't overshadow things. And I think that is the key to a video game movie. You can't let your star power overshine things. But yeah, anyway, we should move on to something else. Actually, I want to talk about something else again. Sorry to dominate this conversation, but
That's
this movie gets not nearly enough love. And I actually have a personal connection to this very early on in my career. Just after Mass Effect 3 came out, I think, Funimation had put together a direct-to-video anime movie based on Mass Effect. And it was called Mass Effect Paragon Lost, I think. And it starred Freddie Prinze Jr. as his character, James Vega. And it takes place between Mass Effect 2 and 3. And it talks about a colony that has been kidnapped by the collectors, and obviously post-traumatic stress disorder. Terrible things happen to him, and how he fought beside this other Krogan, who is not Rex or Grunt, but I am Krogan Roar. And the cool thing I liked about it is it's technically canon, because when you play Mass Effect 3, James Vega, Freddie Prinze Jr., references the events of the movie, but I guess they were written as part of his background. But anyway, it's a surprisingly good animated feature, I think. Anyway, I was actually quoted on the box for this, and in some of the press material at the time that was coming out for this movie. And it's just one of the universes that I'm surprised that has not been adapted sooner. I know there has been talk for years of doing something with Mass Effect, and Microsoft put all their money into doing the Halo television series, which evidently I think has resumed production as of this week. I know they just cast Jen Taylor as Cortana, despite having another voice actress come in, but whatever. I don't know. Mass Effect Paragon Lost is a damn good animated feature, I think. I had a lot of fun with it. It was cool seeing the collectors, the different weapons, and it's a story that it's a side story in Mass Effect. You don't need Commander Shepard to tell a Mass Effect story, and at least in the groups I've hung out with, not a lot of people like James Vega or Freddie Prinze Jr., but hearing him in Mass Effect 3 turned a lot of things around for me. I was thinking, oh, it's the asshole from She's All That, and all those teen drama movies. But it wasn't until I heard him in this, and then I found out he was Kanan Jarrus in Star Wars Rebels, that I really started to take a look at this guy, realizing he can really, really act when he wants to. And he's got to be a giant nerd to take on all these roles, because they're very technical. You're explaining a lot of lore. And I don't know, there's just either he's a really fantastic actor and I just don't know it, or he's a giant dork.
He's a huge nerd. Like, he wrote for Vince McMahon. Like, he was a writer for WWE for a few years.
Yeah, like there's just something about this guy that I really appreciate. And I wish more people would talk about the Mass Effect anime. Like, I would love to see more animated features in that world. If I would ever like to see a Mass Effect movie be made, I think it's more suited for long form television, because that's a lot of story to fit into 2 hours, 2.5 hours to tell, from Shepard meeting the Reapers, gathering his team, then to go fight Saren and whatever the big Reaper is called. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's really good. I've never seen this.
Yeah,
it's really good.
I'll have to track that down. But you speak of video game movies and Freddie Prinze Jr., and it conjures up memories of one of my guiltiest of pleasures.
I saw this movie in theaters.
At 1999's Wing Commander. I have never played these games, but when I told a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Curtis Peterson, he's a brother to me, I told him I love this movie, and he said, I like this movie too. Have you ever played the games? And I was like, no. And his look changed. Like, all of a sudden, he was casting me into the flames of perdition and iniquity. Because
oh my god,
how dare you?
Like, how
The
could you
movie
not?
has Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard. That's half the cast of Scooby-Doo.
I know, right? I mean, the only way that film would have been more perfect if Sarah Michelle Gellar had played, was it Saffron Burrows' role? But it's I've never played the game, so maybe I don't know if you guys have. Like, is the movie in any way representative of the Wing Commander series, aside from like the main villains being the evil cat people from outer space?
I think they're called the Kilrathi, and no. I saw this movie in theaters on opening day with my friend Jarrett. At the time, he was a huge Wing Commander nut. And I remember him grabbing me by the scruff of my t-shirt, going, Mike, you don't understand. They fucked it up. You don't fucking get it. They fucked it up. And he got so angry and so mad that he gave me this verbal diatribe that I promise you lasted no less than 1 hour of every detail they conceivably got wrong. And I remember him yelling about Matthew Lillard endlessly for like a week after that.
Everyone hate on the serial killer. I am sorry. I gotta put my foot down. Matthew Lillard is a working man's actor, and he does no wrong. I'm not saying all his work is great, but he doesn't deserve the hate that he gets.
I'll stand by Matthew Lillard. He's a good guy. And also he can do lots of nice stuff there as well when it comes to acting. But hey, wasn't the Wing Commander movie written by one of the original creators?
Oh, I'm looking here. The screenplay and story was done by Kevin Droney and Chris Roberts, who I guess was one of the creators of the original series. And I remember after this movie came out on the USA Network that had like the aforementioned Street Fighter cartoon and Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm, they had a Wing Commander Academy series that had Mark Hamill voice Maverick to try and bring in the hardcore Wing Commander fans. Because I looked up because Wing Commander is one of the first games that had full motion video cutscenes. So you have like Mark Hamill playing Maverick, Biff from Back to the Future is playing Maniac, and just weird little things like that.
Yeah, that was during that time that Mark Hamill really couldn't get any work other than doing voiceovers. He was Luke Skywalker and he was the Joker, and he had to do something else.
Yeah.
Hey, what I do recall, or I think I recall from Wing Commander, was that the final act of the movie was sort of anticlimactic. I think that we were expecting like a large action scene, and they went like an off-screen retelling of, and then a big battle happened, and we're still here, something like that. Wasn't it? I barely recall this movie.
Yeah, it's something like that. And I remember like the penultimate scene in the third act is Freddie Prinze Jr. is in his like not X-Wing fighter trying to like outrun the Kilrathi command ship because they're going to go to Sector 001 and blow up Earth. And it's like Chekhov's black hole because there was like this black hole he encountered in the beginning of the film, and somehow he's able to slingshot his little space plane away from the black hole, but because the command ship is this big bitch, it gets sucked down and compressed into nothingness within the event horizon. It's all coming back to me now. God, what have I done?
Well, we didn't get as many space fighter themed video game movies, which is weird considering there's so many. And actually that The Last Starfighter, I don't know if it did pretty well, but it's a cult film, and they're always talking about bringing it back.
Yeah, there's supposed to be some kind of a reboot or a sequel in the works, but it's Hollywood. It's going to be in production hell for the next 5 to 10 years. What you actually bring up an interesting point, and I'm surprised this has never happened. There was an animated series of this game series, but I'm surprised it's never been made live action because it would so work, but it'd be expensive as fuck. The Mech Warrior or Battletech universe. Yeah, like I am so surprised because the games were hugely successful on PC. The console ports, not so much. But the series came back last year with like Mech Warrior 5 Mercenaries. Mech Warrior Online's been popular for years. Harebrained Schemes did a Battletech game, which is really, really good. And the company that produces it, Catalyst Game Labs, I'm so surprised it has never been licensed out to a big studio, or if it has, why has there never been any development? Because I'm friends with a guy who writes on that line for the RPG line, Aaron Paulier, and when I talk with him about it, I always get the idea it's Game of Thrones in space, but with mechs. Like, how is this not translated?
That's the greatest elevator pitch ever.
I wonder if maybe it's Harmony Gold giving them a hard time.
I was just going to say that because that's an episode in and of itself.
Yeah, I was going to say the same as well. It's also the budget, of course. We don't get as many decent mech movies as well. Wasn't there a sort of Mech Warrior live-action TV series as well? I remember seeing something in the vein of that, not just a cartoon. It wasn't explicitly a Mech Warrior thing, but it was like something where they had mechs and it was a sci-fi thingy.
There was Robot Jocks, if that's what you're thinking of.
No, Robot Jocks had practical effects. It's a great movie. I love it. But this was a TV series. It was low budget. It had CGI. That's all I can master at the moment. But still, let's try to get back on track on the films thing, which again, it's weird. Again, which movies get picked? Which games get picked to be movies? Because many times it's like you're expecting something with a lot of lore behind it. Because it's like you need a story to tell about something, and people who are hooked to characters and stuff. If we respect the things that people like, people would be okay with that, or at least follow along because it sort of worked before, and that's when people start making big changes to things with established lore, which is weird because it's not like I don't know, Galaga the movie. It's an alien invasion. You have to fight it with spaceships and, dogfights in space. You can make up any character you want. You can put any actor you want in it because there's no real characters behind it. You have a blank slate, and a recognizable brand. But then you sort of go like, let's go with Tomb Raider, Lara Croft. It has all this very specific lore that people want to see made, and then we go and fuck it up and change it up.
So are you talking about the 2001 movie or the 2018 movie?
The first one wasn't so bad. The second one kind of sucked.
Yeah, you know what? The first movie, I loved the first 5 minutes when she's fighting the robot, because that was visually what I always saw in the game, except for the robot itself. But that's how I felt the movie needed to be, like this intense acrobatic action film. And then, they sort of dropped the ball. The second is weirder, of course. And then there's the reboot, maybe? I haven't seen it yet.
It's not bad.
They try to find a middle ground between the two lores, right?
Kind of. I mean, it's a pretty good representation of what the reboot series feels like. I mean, I don't remember a lot about the reboot, which I think is its weakest thing. I mean, the actress who plays Laura is fantastic. The problem is the movie itself is not very memorable, which is really unfortunate because the Tomb Raider reboot games are amazing. Hands down, some of the best of the PS3 and Xbox One and PS4 eras. And
I'm fairly certain I've seen that reboot movie, but the only thing I remember of it was the villain was played by Walton Goggins, and that's almost a Raul Julia-esque effect point in the movie's favor, I think. Sorry to completely cut you off there, Mike.
I was just about to say, the Tomb Raider movies, I mean, I liked Angelina Jolie's Tomb Raider movies, but they were so over the top. They are so 2000s. They've got frosted tips and Jenko jeans. But they weren't Tomb Raider. I'd say the most memorable thing to come out of those movies was Angelina Jolie was a wonderful Lara Croft, but there is an amazing U2 song. They gave an exclusive remix of Elevation, which you could only get on the soundtrack. of that movie. And I remember really liking U2. So yeah, it's really, really good. If you go onto YouTube, type in U2 Elevation Tomb Raider, you get a really cool version of that song, and it sounds more energetic, it's more upbeat, and that's what turned me on to U2 was the Tomb Raider movie. So
I remember the music video for that. They cut in the edge from U2 into like scenes of the movie and tried to have like this little narrative where he's working with, or he's involved with the shenanigans of Lara Croft, and they kind of do it like how they put the DS9 crew into Trouble with Tribbles, like that whole Forrest Gump effect.
Yeah, I recall it.
I love this movie. This is one of the ones I would argue this and the first two Resident Evil movies. I know a lot of people give these movies hate, but this movie and, like I said, the first two RE movies, like they kind of cherry pick iconic elements from the games, which gives them a few more points in their favor for me. Like the first Resident Evil movie, I mean, it starts off in the mansion and you've got zombies and the liquor and, the train and all that. But I mean, Resident Evil 2, I think, is probably my favorite because it's the one that it is the most video game accurate movie in the series. And I kind of ignore every movie after that because whatever the fuck.
I think I know why they do stuff like that.
You do well. If you want to see a movie that really fucks up its lore, I shouldn't have said Tomb Raider. It should have been King of Fighters. You do know there's a King of Fighters movie, right?
God, yeah.
Well, thank you for undoing years of therapy, Pablo.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the King of Fighters. Was that the animated?
No.
Oh no! If only there's a live-action King of Fighters movie where the tournament is done like in a virtual realm tournament, and you know who they got to play Rogal?
Yeah, they put Bluetooth earbuds in, and it somehow like transports their mind to this like other realm. The biggest things I remember, it has William Lee is in there, Maggie Q's in there, and then that whatever his name was that was in Never Back Down, like the not Daniel LaRusso from that movie. He was like
Kiyo Kusanagi.
Yeah.
Which even the characters in the movie go like, hey, you do tell this guy ain't Japanese, right?
Yeah.
Which in the flashbacks is Japanese, because apparently there's a thing with Asian people that they're born Asian and then they go Caucasian. It's weird. Because I saw this in the Street Fighter Legends Chun-Li movie as well. Kristen Crook is Chun-Li. But in the flashbacks, it was a young Chinese girl.
Sorry, I really hate that movie.
Yeah, well, the King of Fighters movie, you know who plays Rugal? Darth Maul.
Ray Park?
Ray Park is Rugal, and he's acting more like a Freddy Krueger clone. You know, he dons weird, funny outfits and kills in slapstick ways.
Is he having trouble making rent?
Why is he in this?
I don't know, but and also Terry Bogard is an FBI or CIA agent that steals the hat from a homeless person. That's how he got the fucking Fury hat. Yeah, it's a terrible, terrible, terrible movie.
Because I know when I want to think fashion, I steal my clothes off of the homeless.
Yeah. John Ferris, that's the guy's name. He plays Keo.
And again, it's like a virtual homeless guy, because again, they're fighting in a virtual reality realm. It's I don't know.
It's okay, I'm gonna bring it back. We're gonna redeem the SNK movies here, and I want to talk about Fatal Fury, the movie.
Yes.
I love that movie. I've seen that movie 20 times, one in entirely stop motion, frame by frame.
Yeah, and I just right off the top, I don't care what anyone says. And I've only ever seen the English dub. I fucking love the title song, "Oh Angel," sung by a Canadian by the name of Warren Stanier.
Oh, angel.
That's on the level of Glory of Love from Karate Kid 2 for me. Like, you cannot tell me that's not a great song. But that movie, like I loved playing like the original like side scrolling being like King of Fighters and Fatal Fury, because you were talking earlier, Pablo, like there's no story. Like I didn't know there was any sort of story in the video games, but I love the anime as fuck aesthetic. Like Terry and his brother, they gotta fight Geese Howard, but then there's this guy and his sister, and they're probably doing it because it's heavily implied like Scarlet Witch Quicksilver vibes on these. And there's
something about this movie. It's actually Hellboy 2. Hellboy 2 is basically a remake of Fatal Fury, the motion picture. We have this super powered cast of weird people that get involved in a sibling fight over ancient relics that will bring the end of the world, and they both get hurt at the same time. They have this weird mystical link between them, and also they kidnap the princess, the sister, while they're drunk. It's a beat by beat exact copy, and I don't know why no one ever talks about it, but it's the same movie as Fatal Fury motion picture, Hellboy 2.
I had no idea Del Toro was a huge Fatal Fury fan.
Maybe he was. I don't know. I'm amazed.
I just love this, and this is like one of the weird things, because there's another movie. I think it's based on a video game. It might just be an anime, but Voltage Fighter Gao Kaiser.
Oh,
it's sort
God.
It was like a sort of collaboration thing. It's two OVAs, but the character designer for the animation and the video game are the same person. So maybe it was like a full multimedia spread package.
I could never finish that anime.
I'm just wondering what his predilection was, the designer, for putting all the dudes in the thin strap chainmail armor that you would traditionally see on a Frank Frazetta Red Sonja painting.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like they're wearing like early 90s stripper outfits, like the main villain in the Fatal Fury movie, and it's like it just gives him more and more powerful until Terry knocks him the fuck out and these coins pop out of the armor, and it brings this statue of Mars, god of war, to life. And I think my brain just died on me. So like these coins pop out, like the main villain, like Laucorn, or
Laucorn Gaudemus.
Yeah. And like Terry punches him, like he gives him the burning knuckle, and he pops him in the breastplate, and these coins pop out of the armor, and it gets absorbed into this statue of Mars, and it comes to life, and now he's going to end the world. And then Laucorn and Terry team up to like kill him, and
yeah, it's epic as fuck. The animation director is Masami Obari. I love his style of directing, designing, and everything. And it's the most epic anime movie in general, maybe. It's so dynamic. All the action scenes are like over 11.
Like the whole thing at the end where, and again, it's one of those the end question mark endings where Terry walks off from his friends, throws his hat into the air like he's graduating. It freezes on that shot, and Oh Angel starts playing.
Yeah. It's a great cover. Again, it's epic. And very unlikely. I still don't understand how we didn't get that with King of Fighters. There are some CGI animated movies and some OVAs, but we never got, like the whole Orochi saga animated.
I know I said death to Uwe Ball at the top of the show, but I have, again, Gil, I love defending bad movies. I live for the guilty pleasures of life. And I have a huge guilty pleasure in the film House of the Dead. May or may not have to do entirely with that Asian chick who's wearing the American flag outfit and she's like high kicking zombies to death. But also the fact that this was like one of the first zombie shooter arcade games that I ever got to play, like the old school stand-up consoles where you got like this gun from like Magnum Enforcers from Sega. They just keep reusing that mold. And
House of the Dead indirectly is one of the video games and movies that made me a gun nut. And this is why. I remember they had this in a local bowling alley or somewhere, and I would double wield these guns. I would akimbo the guns in House of the Dead. And I remember looking like, yep, I'm this 300-pound fat ass looking like fucking John Woo out here killing zombies. And it was the most ridiculous thing ever. And this movie also holds a special place in my heart if you're a Smallville fan, because you see Lois Lane's boobies. God, I sound like a creep.
I just bought the movie on DVD on a sale around my neighborhood.
I'm sorry, that took me a moment to process, Mike. Erica Durance is topless in this movie.
Yes, she is.
Dear God, how could I forget that?
My God, I sound like such a creep. But yeah, I'm sorry. It was like, oh my God, that's Lois Lane. Cool.
Is this the movie where they mix parts of the game into the movie?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I saw it with a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine that's no longer with me. So that reminds me of a lot of fun times, because we laugh so hard at the moment where there's this guy perfecting this immortality serum or something. And they go like, why do you want to be immortal? And he goes like, to live forever. I'm like, he has a point.
A screenwriter got paid for that moment. Yes.
I don't see any problems with logic in here. He sounds perfectly reasonable.
You're asking for logic in an Uwe Boll movie?
Oh my God. You know, just having this conversation is reminding me that there's a DOA movie and a Tekken movie. Oh my God, we're going down a deep rabbit hole.
I have the DOA movie on DVD. It's actually light-hearted fun. It's of course deviates from the original and has lots of issues, like saying, no, you're now a shinobi, which is like a runaway ninja. It's like, no, shinobi is a shinobi. It's a ninja.
There's something.
It's another word for ninja. It's not like a special different ninja or anything. Ayana is a Caucasian purple-haired woman here as well. But still, it's a stupid movie. It's a stupid, simple, fun movie.
I love that movie. I really do.
There are two magical moments in that movie. One is every moment Kevin Nash is on screen as not Hulk Hogan.
Oh my God.
And the fact that he's playing Jamie Presley's dad. He's playing Jamie Presley's character's dad, and like that scene where she comes out of the water in the American flag bikini on that boat, and I'm just like, okay, Mike, now I'm being the pervy old fart, but it's how we do. And then within 5 minutes of her laying down to get some sun, pirates attack, and they're led by Liu fucking Kang.
I forgot about that. Robin Show randomly shows up as like a pirate.
Yeah, and he's looking all kind of like leather tanned and like kind of cracked out, and he just gets like beat almost. It's practically a flash kick, and she kicks his ass off the boat. And I was like, Liu Kang fell on hard times, yo.
Well, we want to talk about Liu Kang in hard times. There's actually another video game movie that we never almost make the connection, which is Death Race.
I knew you were going to bring that up as 9 Mile, yeah.
Yeah, it has Robin Show showing up as another, racer gangster in there. And they actually have like direct-to-video sequels that are actually decent for what they are. And again, Death Race 2000 or 3000 or whatever, it's just, it was again like the Galaga game. Like, you had no other lore other than you have a car that kills people in a race. So you can do anything with that. And, well, they did movies with that. And if you're into action movies, especially sort of post-apocalyptic race car action movies, they're good.
There's another connection between Mortal Kombat and another video game franchise. And I didn't know this until years later. And I think the actor who plays Johnny Cage in the first Mortal Kombat movie, Lyndon Ashby, he shows up in Resident Evil. I think it is Extinction.
The third one.
Where he plays like a sniper. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got the cowboy hat. He climbs up to the top of the Eiffel Tower that's in Vegas and just starts picking off zombies.
I'm about to say, I'm glad you're working, Johnny Cage, but Resident Evil? Really?
And just to bring it back to DOA for a moment. Now, we all know that started as a fighting game, but the time this game came out, the branding was a little off because the only DOA game people knew of at the time was DOA Beach Volleyball, which was known, of course, for its excellent jiggle physics.
Yeah, the fact that somebody went to school, somebody got a computer science degree in game programming or whatever the hell you have to do. Yep, my career is reduced to boob physics. Congratulations, mom and dad. I hope you're proud.
Now, again, what is the DOA came out in the same 1 year after one of, again, guilty pleasure video game movie, Doom.
Yes.
And I don't care what anyone says, that movie is worth it alone for the first person sequence.
Plus The Rock, who's evil because he has the evil gene, you know.
Semper Fi, motherfucker.
God, I hate it. Why couldn't he at least have grown horn? Like, sure, you get like the Klingon style face bumps when he finally goes, like, he embraces his inner evil. Couldn't he have grown like horns so we could have got at least made the argument he was the Hell Knight?
If only.
I was happy they took some monster designs. I mean, I was a little disappointed they did Doom 3, but the imps were cool looking. The Pinky, whatever the fuck they were called.
The dude in the wheelchair.
Yeah. Like, I was surprised how well Doom was. And that, again, my first Carl Urban movie. And then Doom was my second. And I was, or not, Dread. No, wait, he did Star Trek before that because I was 2009. Dread was 2012. But yeah, like, that's that movie's honestly a lot of fun. You got to turn your brain off for it, but it's a lot of fun.
I felt like there's two deaths in there. There's like Portman, who's like that. I don't know the actor's name. He played Joe Chill in the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. Where he gets taken out in the bathroom. It was like, I'm just sitting there smiling the whole time because that guy was a sack of shit. But when Duke got taken out, I was legit upset because I wanted the brother to survive this movie. And I forgot the first rule of horror movies. The black guy never survives. Please tell me no one has seen the Doom Annihilation direct-to-video movie.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, but I'm curious.
And I also know about a movie called sort of like Necromancer or Electromancer or something like that. That is a better Doom movie than Annihilation. And it's an independent film. I have to look it up, but still.
I do have to say with Doom, I love it. Like when the Rock, you know, it's like the game, like you have to go and find like key cards or like this dude's severed hand to get into the gun vault, and he finds the BFG, like the Bioforce gun, but he calls it by its proper name, the big fucking gun.
Fucking gun.
Yes.
Did you guys ever see the Daily Show where The Rock comes on to promote the movie and he walks in carrying the BFG prop?
No.
And
No.
No, he did. He goes in for the interview. He's in, like, he's got a nice, like, some, not really a suit, but, you know, he's dressed well because it's The Rock and he likes the style and profile. And he comes in with the BFG prop, and Jon Stewart tries to lift it and he can't. And The Rock's lifting this thing like it's a can of goddamn beer because it's The Rock.
Wasn't somewhere, JT, you might know this. Isn't there a story floating around that he ended up with that prop and he took it home?
I think he did take it home, but I don't know if it was like, hey guys, do you mind if I take this? And they're like, yeah, sure, Dwayne, go hard. Or he just like, I'm taking this home, and everyone's like, yeah, sure, go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, okay, Mr. Rock, please don't give us the rock bottom.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like that sort of thing. I'm always wondering if, like, how much trouble do the stars really get in? Because I've read of how, like, Chris Hemsworth has stolen, like, I think at this point he's got like 5 or 6
Mjolnirs or something.
Yeah, like he's stolen like one of the Thor suits. He's got like 6 hammers. I think Chris Evans, in addition to the shield that the studio gifted him, he stole one off the set because he is a cheeky sumbitch. Now, you know, we talked about Doom. Now we got to talk about the other movie that's Double Dragon.
Oh, I actually like Double Dragon. In a weird way, especially because I sort of have to thank them for getting me the Double Dragon Neo Geo game.
Yeah,
it's a good fighting game, but
yeah, I never played the video game series until after I saw this movie. And so I didn't know anything about the story. It's like, okay, it's these two brother martial artists, one of whom knows martial arts, and the other one is Scott Wolf. And the whole like, I don't care what anyone.
Mark Dacascos is the other one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't care what anyone says. I loved him on that Crow TV show. That was great.
Yeah.
The best part of this movie is watching Robert Patrick play Kogashuko, the main villain, with his like kid and play style hair with the bleach blonde top. And he's just like, he is chewing every inch of scenery every time he's on screen. Like, there is no way he didn't. I don't care if he's like, yeah, sure, I got paid, but I had fun making this thing.
Oh, you could tell. You could definitely tell.
Now, I've actually had arguments with friends about this big surprise that I have arguments with people. I do not. The only reason I don't like Alyssa Milano's character in this movie is she's got the pixie haircut. I like Who's the Boss, long flowing locks, Alyssa Milano. That's the only negative thing I have to say about her in this movie.
And she wears a wig in the movie. She sort of had the pixie cut hidden when she's with her family.
She's
so
like,
weird.
Was it the Power Corps, like this eco-terrorist street gang or something?
Oh, I'm not sure which affected which, but the movie and the cartoon series for Double Dragon have this whole mystic Double Dragon twin powers activate thing. That I don't know where did it originate, if it was in the cartoon series or in the movie, or because it definitely wasn't in the video games.
Yeah, no, I think that the whole mystic thing with the movie and in that animated series, which has one of the most 90s AF theme songs ever. Imagine He-Man by way of Enter the Dragon, and you're pretty much there.
Yeah.
They never really had mysticism play into any of the Double Dragon games, because I went hard into the franchise after this movie.
Wait, Double Dragon 3, the Rosetta Stones for NES, had mysticism, but never on their side. It's like they fought mystic things in that game, but they didn't. They weren't mystically powerful.
Yeah, like it's really only in this movie, like the whole interlocking medallion, which, you know, if they ever sold that online as a prop, I would like to own it, because like this is one of those movies that, again, there's not a lot from the games in here other than Billy and Jimmy Lee. And what was the name?
Abobo shows up. Come on.
Yeah, Abobo.
God.
They did a very literal interpretation of Abobo. We have to get
too
props for that.
literal.
It's the first time I've ever seen torture on film. Like, they're force feeding him spinach like he's goddamn Popeye. And then he just has like horrible gas later.
Oh, again, this movie also has a game inside the movie. They actually break the Double Dragon arcade cabinet while they're fighting in the final scene.
That's a little meta.
Another movie that I think deserves a little bit of mention just because nobody talks about it. I think it flew under the radar because people didn't realize it was a video game movie, yet it is. Does anybody here remember Rampage?
Oh, I love that movie. And yes, people always forget about it. I love it. It came on a very special time in my life as well, because I just had lost my dog. So suddenly this whole man and his pet ape that turns into giant and is risking his life, it's sort of like, it felt close to home.
Yeah. I remember that movie so well, Mike.
They had many titles from the game as well. And again, Rampage is another film based on a video game that has a lot of freedom when it comes to the lore. It's what's Rampage about? Giant monsters tearing down buildings. Okay.
You know, the funny thing about these movies, you know, Rampage, Resident Evil, and Double Dragon, I think the reason why they go so far into left field with these is because if you really break these down, these games are kind of they're kind of derivative of like properties that were already movies. Like if you look at Double Dragon, it's kind of the Warriors. If you look at Resident Evil, it's kind of it's kind of your typical zombie movie. And you know, Rampage is of course King Kong and Godzilla. Yeah. So they have to kind of alter it to make it not like a pre-existing property.
Well, speaking of that, only this year I found out. I did know about it, but only this year I got to see Streets of Fire, which it's so weird seeing a movie that basically it's like the only American movie that Japanese developers ever saw and decided that any game situated in America had to be based on that movie together with the Warriors. It's amazing. And I love the soundtrack.
Japan had a whole thing about that. Like for like video games and anime and anime movies, they would like take a little bit of like Blade Runner and a little bit of the Terminator and like Alien, and they would just like mash it all together. And like you see like Alien and the Terminator show up in all sorts of shit back in the 80s.
I mean, you look at the box art for the original Contra game, it was basically supposed to be
Yes,
Arnold
exactly.
and Stallone versus a xenomorph. No,
well, I'm amazed we didn't get a Contra movie. Well, that's the thing. Given that all the games were based on American 80s film properties, I always kept like working before there were video game movies. I was trying to pretend there were video game movies. So every time I would watch like Bloodsport, it was like, oh yeah, this is Johnny Cage. This is the Mortal Kombat movie. Or I get to see another movie that sort of eventually devolved into a video game series. To me, that was like the real movie.
Rampage was fun. I was really sad when Joe Manganiello died. Like he had like maybe 10 minutes of screen time, and I thought he was gonna make it. And like, nah, he gets eaten by Ralph. But to really sum up video game movies, we have to look at what and it can be argued that the best video game movie of all time. I know some people say it's the Silent Hill movie. I contend to this day that the best video game movie is the original Mortal Kombat.
I absolutely agree. See, I'm weird. I don't like either of the Silent Hill movies. I really don't. And they're well shot. They look great. I guess they're faithful, but they didn't jive with me. Mortal Kombat, took some liberties, especially with Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
Deadliest of enemies, but slaves under
my power. Yeah, like, and Christopher Lambert as Raiden. My God, it's perfect. Even though he's not Chinese, but who cares? It's great, and they could not have cast Shang Tsung any better. Robin Shou, to me, that guy was my hero for years.
And when he showed up in like Beverly Hills Ninja, I was like, Liu Kang.
Yeah,
same here.
No, the best thing about this movie, unlike Street Fighter, you got a few of the in-game moves. Like you got that really weak sauce Hadouken, the Shoryuken, and the Whirlwind Kick, because I cannot pronounce its proper name without insulting the Asian people. But Mortal Kombat, like you got the Shadow Kick, you got the Bicycle Kick, you get the legs neck snap from Sonya, you get the oddly, I love Scorpion Spear. Like it's not the kunai and a chain from the game, but I really dug what they did with it. But Liu Kang with his fireball to finish carry Hiroyuki Tagawa. I can actually say his name. Shang Tsung. Like that whole final battle in Outworld, I loved it. And the theme song, like Mortal Kombat didn't really have any notable, like, I don't think it cemented its legacy in pop culture until the Immortals combat track came with this movie.
Makes sense.
That song is like the de facto Mortal Kombat theme.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Street Fighter. What did that movie have? You have that MC Hammer, Deion Sanders music video.
I think what makes Mortal Kombat work so well is just that, like a kind of what I was saying earlier. This movie or this game series is almost kind of based on movies that have already existed. So with Mortal Kombat, you kind of have like a throwback to all the old martial arts films.
Enter the Dragon.
Yeah, so just putting that idea right back into a movie, it works.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
the puppetry on Goro.
Oh God, yeah, that was awesome. Who was that? Who's the guy? Stan Winston?
I think somebody from the studio worked on that, but yeah, no, just that the promos, like the poster, like nothing in the world can prepare you. Again, Shang Tsung, like the best interpretation. He was so good as Shang Tsung, they brought him back for the Mortal Kombat Legacy web series like 20 years later.
He also doing the games.
They
He's
brought
like
him back in 9. Or I think it was not. No, they brought him back in 10.
Yeah.
So
So he's got a career just being Shang Tsung.
he's got it sung up.
But anyway, I think that just about does it. We mentioned everything except for like the Mario movie, which
It didn't happen.
I like that
Again.
movie, and I have every action figure.
that
Then
there,
you
that
wait.
movie
Wow.
has some fans. I don't get it.
It even has a webcomic.
I actually considered doing my first cosplay when I was doing more convention appearances as Super Mario Brothers Mario, just because I thought it would be weird and kind of funny, honestly. But I remember seeing that movie in theaters, and again, my wonderful father took me to go see that movie. I came home, made sure it was the middle of the afternoon, so nobody was home. Everybody's at work, screaming in the backyard. I was so bad. Like, how do you fuck this up?
I mean, I remember as a child and seriously saying this to myself. I felt a piece of my soul die watching that movie.
Oh, we're gonna end on a
not
sad
even-
note. But anyway, I think we're wrapping up right now.
Yeah.
We can keep going, but I think some of us have to leave.
Yeah, I know.
But thank you so much for listening. This is Neil for The Gaming Hipster at ravinghipster.com. It's a Patreon supported show. $2 a month gets you every episode of The Gaming Hipster plus after shows. Plus there are movie topic shows and movie commentaries that I've been doing for years. You can get all of that, $2 a month. Download all you want, cancel anytime. I don't care as long as you're listening. I don't mind. Let's say goodbye to our guests. I want you all to say who you are and plug your stuff. Go ahead. Starting with Mike.
Of course, you can follow me at This Week in Geek on Twitter or my personal Twitter, which is at BirdmanDodd. You can find shows weekly and all the time at thisweekingeek.net. And Mr. Neil, before we leave your show, I have to ask you but one question that I'm sure the fans are dying to know. If I sign up for your Patreon, do you promise to send me nudes?
I cannot guarantee.
I wanted OnlyFans for this podcast.
I don't have an only. You don't want me on an OnlyFans. And JT.
Yeah, I'm JT from Saskatoon. You look up on all the major social medias, you will find just like JT from Saskatoon, all one word. You can also catch me weekly, bi-weekly on the Comic Connoisseurs with Neil's animation aficionado compadre Ben, the host. I'm also recently become a member of the Twig family. Me and Birdman do the Sunday Funnies comic review show once a month, trying to keep to something of a publishing schedule. And one of these days, I'll actually get off my ass and start my own show again. So please don't hate me.
Finally, Pablo Praino. Why don't you tell everyone what you're up to?
Well, you can find me as Optimus Prino on YouTube, DeviantArt, Instagram, and, well, pretty much anything else. And I'm, I have a small indie comics company called Powa Comics. You can find us POWAH Comics. And also, independent films and animation, and I'm helping out in upcoming secret animation project, and that's all I can say for now.
So anyway, that's it for this week's episode. This will be the Christmas episode, by the way. I had like one extra episode that I had to do this past weekend. I did an interview with Mike James of Retro Gaming Roundup talking about the Coleco Chameleon, which was really fun. So that should be out late November. But thank you again for listening, and we're signing out. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
Send nudes.
Produced at DOS HQ.